Good evening, it's Saturday the 30th of August. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this evening. North Korea's foreign minister will visit New York City next month to attend the UN General Assembly, becoming the first North Korean foreign minister to visit the US in 15 years. Sources say Ri Su-yong will deliver a keynote address at the session as a state representative. Political observers are watching to see whether the visit will foster improved ties between Pyongyang and Washington. Observers say there's a high possibility that Lee will hold talks with US officials during his visit. The last time a North Korean foreign minister attended the UN General Assembly was back in 1999. The United Nations is once again urging Japan to take full blame for the sexual enslavement of tens of thousands of women from Korea and elsewhere in Asia during World War II. The UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination said on Friday that by failing to treat the aging survivors in a respectful and proper way, Japan had let their suffering drag on for decades. The committee's deputy head, Anastasia Crinkley, said Tokyo needs to conclude investigations into the human rights abuses, bring those responsible to justice, and pursue a comprehensive and lasting resolution to the sex slavery issue. Historians say some 200,000 women, mainly from Korea, but also from a number of other Asian countries, were forced to work in Japanese military brothels before and during the Second World War. Now, Korea's main opposition party has been holding a mass rally in central Seoul today to call for the swift passage of legislation to investigate in more detail the sinking of the Seoul ferry in April. The ruling party wants opposition lawmakers back in the National Assembly, as the deadlock has brought all work in Parliament to a grinding halt. Our Ji Myung-gil has this report.
Thousands of main opposition party members and party leaders are staging street protests calling for the special Seoul ferry bill to meet the demands of the victims' families. Ha Kyung-sung, the interim chief of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, is urging President Park Geun-hye to meet with the bereaved families in a bid to call for the enactment of the special bill. The opposition chief has been firm on her stance that the special bill must be passed ahead of other pending bills at the National Assembly. However, the ruling Saenuri Party is demanding the special bill be dealt with separately, so bills aimed at improving the people's livelihoods can be voted upon. Ruling party lawmakers accuse the main opposition of using the ferry bill as a means to further its own political ends. After Saturday's mass rally, opposition party leaders plan to march from Jindo's Paekmokhan Harbor, the nearest site to the ferry sinking, to Seoul sometime next week. As the National Assembly's regular session begins on Monday, the ruling party is scheduled to meet with the victims' families for a third time in the hope of reaching a compromise over the bill. The families are demanding the investigative committee be given the right to investigate and indict. They also insist the ruling party should not be allowed to select any of the 7-member panel tasked with choosing a special counsel. The government has been accused of bungling its initial response to the ferry disaster, which left more than 300 people dead or missing. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, the deepening crisis in Ukraine is likely to dominate a summit of EU leaders in Brussels on this Saturday. EU officials say the leaders of the 28-member bloc will send a clear message to Russia to de-escalate the crisis. The summit comes a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin warned Western nations to avoid messing with Russia, pointing out that it's a nuclear-armed power. Moscow continues to deny that Russian troops and equipment are inside eastern Ukraine. NATO is also reportedly considering a new rapid reaction force to boost the military bloc's defences in response to this deepening crisis. NATO Secretary-General Anders Fogh Rasmussen is calling on Russia to take immediate and verifiable steps towards de-escalation. The United Nations says it has received assurances that 44 peacekeeping troops taken hostage by Syrian rebels in the Golan Heights This is an area on the border of Syria and Israel, are safe and in good health. Islamist militants, including some linked to the Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Nusra Front, stormed a crossing in the area on Wednesday, kidnapping the troops, who are all from Fiji. A spokesman for the UN says talks are continuing with a wide range of parties within Syria and a UN member state who may have some influence over the rebels. The Syrian militants have reportedly claimed to be holding the peacekeepers for their own protection. The UN added that 72 soldiers from the Philippines had been surrounded by rebels but had not been harmed and are in good health. Now, there may be some good news finally in the fight against the deadly Ebola virus. Researchers say monkeys infected with Ebola have made a 100% recovery after being given the experimental drug ZMapp. Publishing their data in the science journal Nature, the research team says all 18 rhesus macaques treated with ZMapp made a complete recovery, even when given 5 days after infection, while they were displaying severe symptoms. Now, this comes after 2 American aid workers infected with Ebola while working in Liberia made a full recovery after being given this drug, although we still don't know yet whether their recovery was down to ZMapp or whether they just got lucky. On Friday, Senegal became the 5th country to report a confirmed case of Ebola. The World Health Organization has said the current outbreak could infect more than 20,000 people. The confirmed death toll is creeping towards 1,600. Back here in Korea, and the country is facing a serious problem of a dwindling number of young people as a result of having one of the lowest birth rates in the entire world. Very recently, the number of students in Korea, in fact, fell below 7 million for the first time in decades, our Chae Yu-sun reports.
This was a typical scene at primary schools in Korea in the early 1980s. School grounds packed with students during an autumn sports day. Classes were even divided up into morning and afternoon groups due to overloaded enrollment. That's all in the past now. Statistics show the number of students attending primary to secondary schools combined with kindergartners dropped down to the 6 million range this year. It peaked at 10 million in the 80s but has gradually fallen since. All of this can be attributed to the country's low birth rate. Due largely to the high cost of getting married and raising kids, Korea has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. A Korean woman is estimated to have 1.19 babies in her lifetime. What's interesting to note this year, meanwhile, is the slight slowdown in the rate of decline among primary schoolers. This is because most of the kids who enter the first grade this spring were born in 2007, the year of the golden pig, considered to bring prosperity according to the Chinese zodiac. In fact, the number of first graders jumped by nearly 10%, or more than 40,000. Consequently, the effect of their exodus was felt in kindergartens. The small but continuous growth of kindergartners in recent years, 7% last year, changed direction to a near -1%. Experts say the government should address the fundamental reasons behind women opting not to have children, such as unemployment and the country's high cost of private education, to turn around the falling numbers. Chae Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, fears, we all have them, be them spiders or heights or something like that. But new research suggests that some of them may have been passed down to us from our mothers without us even ever knowing it. Our Son Jung-in reports on a study out of the United States that supports that theory.
In a laboratory at the University of Michigan, a mother rat is taking care of her newborn pups. But when peppermint scent is sprayed, the mother abandons her babies and retreats into a corner. The babies also start to show signs of distress. Before the female rat was even pregnant, she was programmed to fear the smell of peppermint through the use of unpleasant electric shocks. After giving birth, the babies who had never been subjected to the experience still showed fear when exposed to the minty smell. This time, scientists separate the pups from their mother in another chamber that is connected by pipe. When the peppermint fragrance is sprayed near the mother, the newborns in the other room still react in fear. Scientists say it's because they picked up on the special odor emitted from their scared mother, which was transferred through the pipe.
In a series of experiments, we found that the mother does not have to be physically present with the pups. It is enough for the pups to be exposed to the odor of the frightened mother paired with a...
Researchers explain that young rats are unable to learn information about environmental dangers, but if their mother is the source of that threat information, they can perceive her fear and produce lasting memories. They added that the latest findings could provide some answers behind similar incidents in humans, such as the children of Holocaust survivors report nightmares and flashbacks to events they never experienced. 손정인, Arirang News.
And finally, taking a brief look at the weather here in Korea. And most of the country is under partly cloudy skies this evening. It'll be a mild and dry night with the overnight low only dipping down to about 20 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Sunday will be another beautiful early fall day with highs nationwide reaching the high 20s to low 30s. Let's take a look at the weather in your part of the world. Well, that's all we have for now. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday, wherever you're watching us, and stay tuned to Arirang TV. I'll be back again for our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.